just wanted to start with a definition. When I talk about influencers, I stick to the traditional definition, which is someone who is influencing purchase decisions, meaning that it's someone whose job is to get people to buy whatever, a product, an online course. This is the definition, I'm going to stick to it. Before we start, quick question. What, in your opinion, is halal slop? If you have an idea, raise your hands. Any ideas? Wow, that's really good. Really, really good, yeah. Any other idea? What could it be? Someone's been watching YouTube. Cool, okay. So basically, if you're familiar with the concept of AI slop, which is, like low quality, low effort content just to gather attention and engagement, I name halal slop the uncritical copying and pasting of whatever is produced by Europe and North America with a low effort tweak to make it Muslim friendly or, whatever, Sharia friendly, halal. Trick question. Are smash burgers halal slop? Let me go on the next slide, and you'll be able to figure out the answer by yourself. So what I call halal slop is all that has been produced and has been adapted from Europe and North America with a tweak to make it, I would say, appealing to Muslim audiences. So first basic example, anything that is haram, you can find a halal equivalent. We have halal champagne, halal wine, halal bacon, halal dating, halal mortgages. Now Dubai is building the first casino in the Emirates. But it doesn't stop there. It's also products that are specifically targeting Muslims. So in this slide, for example, on the center, there's companies that make halal cat food, and there is people who had this idea of selling Zamzam water in bottles, in glass bottles, sold £30 per unit. 30 pounds. That's in Manchester. That's 3 meals with chips and drink and everything. That's crazy. So back to my initial question: what do you think about smash burgers? Halal slop or not? No. Who thinks yes? Anyone thinks it's a halal slop? Anyone who doesn't think it's a halal slop? Yeah?
I don't think it's halal slop.
Yeah, why do you think it's not?
It's not exactly something that's rebranded from halal, haram to halal. It's not really targeted.
Yeah, it's not targeted at Muslims, exactly, yeah. So now we've covered this. So why do we have this? Very simple thing to have in mind. So we are accustomed to think about Muslims as now almost 2 billion believers, right? The thing is, companies realize that, hey, there's a lot of Muslims, a lot of them have money, so instead of seeing 2 billion believers, they see 2 billion consumers. And this is what is happening. And one of the biggest examples is with, as we mentioned, Nike hijab. But there's a few things to say about the Nike hijab. People were, I don't know if you remember, people were all over the moon when Nike released the Nike hijab. Quick question, how did you feel when you heard the news that Nike released a Nike hijab? How it made you feel?
From the sisters, please.
Yes. Have you felt in a particular way when you saw the news on social media, or were you just like, oh, it's okay, just another product? Yes? It felt a bit? Okay, interesting. Why?
Because I feel like Nike is a company that doesn't have values that align with Islamic beliefs. So for them to then feel like they're reaching out to Muslims and trying to represent them when their values don't align with our values, felt a bit.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very critical and analytical answer. Anyone felt like, wow, that's great, they're releasing a Nike hijab? Or not really? Wow, mashallah, you're really, really critical thinkers over there. And yeah, so lots of people actually felt really upset. Nike was releasing a Nike hijab for many of these reasons, because we all know the work practices from companies like Nike, especially thinking that a Nike hijab, so it's produced very likely by other Muslims, but either paid like really cheap wages in Bangladesh, or, you know, we had this controversy when Nike was producing products in forced labor camps in China. So do you see the irony? We have a company that produces a product marketed for Muslims, produced by other Muslims, but in forced labor camps. It's almost, you know, they want the Ummah to drink its own blood. This is the level we're at. There's another thing as well, because a lot of Muslim social media influencer, lifestyle magazines, they were really over the moon with the Nike hijab. Well, another thing that upset a lot of people is that before the Nike hijab, you had at least 6 companies which they're still running, Muslim-owned, family-owned, that have been producing sports hijabs. So this is the list of all the companies. And you see the earliest was in 2001. That's more than 15 years before Nike released the hijab. And they were, you know, it's produced ethically with good work practices. But for some reason, only when Nike released the hijab, their sports hijab, people started talking about this. So what, in your opinion, where does it come from? Why people get so excited? In general, the average Muslim gets very excited when one of these big companies releases a product specifically targeting Muslim, and nobody ever talked about all these 6 companies that were already producing products. What is happening in your opinion, if you have an idea? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes?
It's a status thing. So like when a big name company makes something, you kind of want their icons rather than a no-name company.
Yeah, exactly. There's status involved. But why particularly? Because, you know, when big companies, they release different products, and I'm talking about the mainstream population, whether, you know, you have brands who release luxury products or, you know, some kind of things. Why is it particular when one of these big companies releases a product targeting Muslims? Why do people usually get excited?
Because it feels like we're not really represented in the mainstream. So when these big companies are releasing products, it feels like we're being seen.
Indeed, yeah, because we're not represented. People have, you know, if we look at the bigger picture, people have been lacking for generations of things like financial stability, media visibility, political representation. So of course, when one of these big names, it feels like collectively, oh, finally they see us, finally we're accepted, we've made it on the big channels and stuff. But to dig a bit deeper in this process, I want to quiz you on a few general cultural questions. Can you name me, we're going to start with easy questions, can you name me a Muslim footballer? Yeah. A Muslim politician? Huh? Umdani, yes. A Muslim Hollywood star? Yeah, Riz Ahmed, yeah. Okay, now we're going to increase the difficulty a little bit. Can you name me a Muslim doctor who has invented a remedy for a serious illness in the past 26 years? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Can you name me a Muslim Nobel Prize winner? 3, 2, 1. Next question. Can you name me a charitable worker, someone who set up a charity and like wherever in the world from scratch with no resources, no big names supporting them, and that has been helping, I don't want to exaggerate, but dozens of thousands of orphans?
Dr. Han.
Have you heard of Abdul Sattar Idi?
Yeah.
Yes. But, you know, there is something, you know, in the fact that we cannot find immediate answers to these questions that tell something about in what bubble have we been living, what has been going on, why can these names not pop automatically in our minds, right? So for describing this, Also, you may have heard people on social media saying, when we have now people working for these big tech companies, these CEOs and self-made people, with quote marks, that no one is ever really self-made. Why do people say sometimes that, we need a Muslim Elon Musk, we need a Muslim Mark Zuckerberg? So there is a narrative behind these statements. And for this, I want to introduce you to Uncle Hussein Bulhan. So this guy is a professor in psychology, and he called it a term called meta-colonialism. So you probably already know what is colonialism and what is the traditional definition, people occupying land and like stealing resources. However, Hussein Bulhan says that colonization didn't stop when the British Empire ended, or when the French Empire or the Spanish Empire ended. It's still going on. It's just that the empires have changed their shape. They have become decentralized. They have changed the strategies. It's not only about occupying mines and stealing resources. Still resources, and still you have countries occupying lands, we know that. But it's now about occupying the mind, discourses, culture, narratives, systems, in every field of human existence, whether we're talking about economics, we're talking about beauty standards, we're talking about education system, the healthcare system. So basically, Uncle Hussein Bulhan, what he did is studied the mental health care in Sudan, and he realized that it's completely disconnected from the actual needs of people of Sudan. Why? Because, again, Halalslop, they have uncritically copied and pasted the Eurocentric mental health care system without any changes, thinking that, and there's no law that forced people of Sudan to adopt the Eurocentric mental health care system. There was no financial incentive. Nobody was paid for it, but they did it because they genuinely believed there was no alternative. It was the best, and anything produced by Europe was universal. You could adapt this anywhere in the world. And this is what is happening. We can talk about, beauty standards. Why do some people in the workplace say that, if you come with curly hair at work, it's not professional? That's, again, how metacolonialism works. There's no pressure by the law or financial pressures, but if you don't conform to the system, you're going to pay a cost. You're going to lose opportunities. You're going to maybe, lose your job, or people are not going to be looking at you the way they would look at a normal human being. Another example, and I believe that's the next slide. No, not yet, actually. How is it possible to talk about Palestine? It's not illegal to talk about Palestine in the workplace, right? It's not illegal, but if you do so, you know that you're going to face some consequences, right? And this is how it works. These are all these kind of social pressures which pushes people to conform and to comply with the dominant narratives. So another illustration of Halalslop, very, very quickly. So I want you to look at these pictures, and you've probably seen many, many of these on social media, right? Do you think there's a problem with these pictures? Someone who hasn't spoken yet. Do you think there's a problem with these pictures? Anyone? I'm sure you see there's a problem. Okay, I'm going to make things easy for you. I always put them alongside with these pictures, which you have probably seen in history books, right? So these are pictures taken in the 19th century by British colonial officers going to Africa, to Asia. But the similarities do not stop here. All these people in these 4 pictures, why did they come to Africa and to Asia? They came with very good intentions. They said, help people. Of course, we know what happened. And why did they take these pictures? Because they wanted to document what they were doing. It was a press relations, a public relations exercise. Look at us. Look at the good we're doing abroad. Of course, the aims are a bit different because back in the days, these people say, we want to civilize these people. We want to bring civilization to Africa and Asia. But just imagine how these pictures were taken. Imagine someone entering your house, not knocking at the door, not asking your parents or whoever lives in your house, and just with their camera, taking pictures of your parents, your siblings, yourself. and going back home and posting these pictures on social media, how would you feel about it? And this is a problem that we have observed in the charity sector because, again, many of these big multi-million charities, some of them are better than others, that's not all of them, but many of them have just copied and pasted the same things people in America have been doing. Christian evangelists, you know, with the concept of mega churches and volunteerism, you go to abroad just to put a nice line in your CV that you have been helping people abroad, and it makes you a bit more hireable, employable, if you like. And again, like, is it the way charity is supposed to be done? Just, you know, not asking people their permission, not crediting them. And we can go a bit deeper into the rabbit hole. So, do you know this guy? You should know this guy. Yeah. You've seen this guy, right? Yeah. So, I don't need to explain. And have you seen these guys? That's very timely. Have you seen these people before? So, what is happening in these pictures? So, we have, on one end, a Muslim Arab Palestinian who works for Israel. And on the other side here, we have people who identify as Muslims, but are the most Islamophobic and racist people you can imagine. So why is it happening? So again, this is another step with metacolonialism, why it's so powerful. It enables people coming from historically oppressed demographics to become oppressors in turn. Why? That's because, again, metacolonialism is, the narrative is, if you don't play the game, you're not going anywhere. So it pushes people to play the game to the point where we see these kind of dynamics happening. People who are identified as Muslim, who come from immigrant background, who grew up poor, but are more anti-immigration than the top dogs in these parties. So now we're going to go through a set of... do I have the time to talk about this? Yes, of course, yeah, that's very quickly. So just this is a very, very... side note as well. So in the past, again, another tool of metacolonialism is the creation of fake Muslim charities and fake Muslim media outlets for the same purposes. So this is something that has been documented, that UK government, the US government has been doing, and they have been exposed, but it is another way of controlling. You have charities and media outlets pretending to be Muslim, while in fact, the people behind these websites were old white men behind their keyboards pretending to be 20-year-old something girls talking about lifestyle, but again with a very, very particular narrative. But it's possible, you know, with a few tools it's possible with a few tools to decipher, you know, what's the actual message these people are pushing forward. And if you see something you're a bit unsure of, it's possible to diagnose and analyze what is it actually being sold to me? What is the kind of narrative or the kind of products that is being sold to me? So this is a framework we're going to go through that I am using in my own research work whenever I see content online to try to decipher, you know, what are the intentions of what I am seeing, what is being said, and what do they mean, what do they want from me? Do they want, I don't know, money? Do they want approval? Do they want engagement, time, energy? I don't know. And so there's as an illustration, this is not something, you know, very formal or whatever. I'm just going to call this a dodginess meter. And we're going to go through a few case studies, and we're going to together try to figure out, are these case studies I'm presenting to you dodgy or not, okay? So first case study, sorry, I need to go through it, of course, because, you know, these words look good, but I need to explain. Offer. What is an offer? What do they offer? What kind of services or products? Is it something, you know, I don't know, maybe it is something for me to buy? Is it some narrative? Then what's the cost? What does it cost me to get this product? Is it going to cost me money? Is it going to cost me time, energy, or other conditions? Does it need me to say certain things? Then credentials. What is the CV of the company selling these products or the organization? Who have they been mingling with? What have they done in the past? When were they created, let's say? What else? Or what entities or people do they align with? The next is interviews. This is a way for me to say that every time you see something new, think like someone who is hiring someone at a job interview, but you were the interviewer. You're going to ask them, you're going to read their website, social media, and question what is being said, what is the language they're using, if they offer religious arguments or just, arguments, how valid are these arguments? You're going to critically analyze them. And finally, reviews. And this is something you probably already do. If there's a new restaurant in town, you're going to first check the reviews online to see, if it's good, not what the people are saying, what problems they encounter. But also reviews can be something you just ask people you know personally, friends, family, anyone has heard of these guys? Because there's many ways of gathering opinion, but it's important we rely on what other people are saying. So first case study, let's dive into it. This is going to be an easy one. A Muslim entrepreneur network. You see ads on TikTok, Instagram, whatever, about a few guys who offer you to multiply your money through collective investing. What's the cost of it? There's no minimum for you to invest, but they suggest it would be good if you invest minimum £5,000. But you don't have to do it. What are the credentials? The company has 4 people. You look on the website. The CEO has 670,000 followers, and the events are organized in a mosque. Then, what do they say? They claim being the world's largest Muslim business building platform. They say their motto is go big or go bigger, and you have sentences in their website such as Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a capitalist. What are the reviews saying? Reviews are they don't have any reviews. They are not on Trustpilot, but on their website you see they have filmed videos of people saying that it has brought them brotherhood, it boosts their confidence, and they gave them communication skills. So the question is, dodgy or not dodgy? Okay, so if you think it's dodgy, can you tell me why? You need to be a bit analytical. Yes, at the back. Okay. Anyone else? Another element that may have raised an alarm?
There's no actual reviews and it's not Trustpilot.
Very, very good. So I think these are the 2 main elements, because all of these elements taken individually, it could be something completely legit. But once you see that you have a certain discourse, like Prophet Muhammad was a capitalist, like what kind of statement is that? We know the Prophet, peace be upon him, died poor, and he made a point of helping the vulnerable in the community, not amassing as much money as possible. And yes, as the brother mentioned, if you have testimonies on their website, that's usually, you know it's going to be positive. And also, all these testimonies, they don't talk about how much money they made. They say it gave them skills, but no, because if you're in it, it's for money. So, do we know any people who've made money? So, next case study: halal collagen supplements. So, quick overview. So, what do they sell? Collagen powder, halal, cost £30 a packet. Credentials: you've seen they've made many collaborations with influencers, and they use the classic gym imagery. What do they say on the website? They say they can cure hair loss and regrow hair. It's marketed as sunnah. It says it can reverse aging. Reviews: 4.4 stars on Trustpilot for 1,600 reviews. Dodgy or not dodgy? It's a trick question, but what's your opinion? Can someone say something? I just want to know what you think.
Dodgy.
Dodgy? Okay, why dodgy?
How can you market it as sunnah?
Good point. Anything else? Yes?
It's the idea of reverse aging and the classic gym imagery. It's like you could go to gym and get fit without them as well. So it's kind of like an waste of money.
Okay, can you expand on this? Why reverse aging makes you think it's dodgy?
I'm not like entirely sure, but I don't think in Islam it's like completely allowed like reverse aging. I think it's just going with the flow of life itself, and you can get better by going to, you can get fit, you can be healthy without the collagen supplements. So it's the idea of, do you want to use that money, spend your money, £30 a packet on that, or do you want to use it for something more useful maybe?
That's a very interesting point, also very philosophical. So next question is, would you think of things you would do to find out more about this product, to figure out if it's actually, something you would buy or not? Any further steps? Any things you want to investigate?
Making these claims about control hands for caring for research behind studies that have been done where they've tested this product, what is the evidence of that?
Excellent point. Guys, you're at PhD level. I don't have to do the presentation. So yeah, indeed, although, all seems very harmless and very positive, the thing is, when the product claims to, cure hair loss and regrow hair, or even reverse aging, that should raise an alarm bell, because I'm not saying some products may actually help for these, but we need to read the studies, what have been made. And there's lots of scientific articles that have studied the effects of collagen and whether it helps or not. I mean, spoiler alert, it's very mixed. It's not straightforward. It's not like paracetamol. If you have a headache, it's not going to work like this. It's very mixed, and it's maybe long term. It's in very specific cases. So yeah, one thing is reviews don't tell everything, because usually Trustpilot tells you whether the transaction went well. So if people had any problems with the delivery, with payment, or customer service. But another thing is, when you are sold something, you have a lot of scientific study, especially in the medical field, that you can look online. You have the abstract. It's very short, and you can see, what scientists have been saying about a particular product. Is it working, not working? Does it have any side effects or whatever? Also, in terms of cost, that's a bit more particular, but if you Google halal collagen, so either you can find marine collagen, or you can also find collagen from beef, from Turkey, which is £15 a packet, with postage. So a bit overpriced, let's say. Next case study, retreats with famous Muslims. So what's on offer? You are invited to network with the richest, most famous, and most influential Muslims in the world. What does it cost? Super expensive, £2,000 a ticket, excluding flights and accommodation, and it's on invitation only. But, if you are having one-to-one conversations with Riz Ahmed, with Mehdi Hassan, maybe it's worth it. What are the credentials? Has been running since 2010, and you will find there on the retreats all the Muslim MPs, like all the celebrities you want. It has connections with the Labour Party, Democrat Party, even but they invite Zionist organizations. But at the same time, they make events about Palestine. So it gets very tricky. What are they saying on the website? They are shaping Western Muslim leadership. And reviews, nobody you know has ever heard of them. So, dodgy or not dodgy? Dodgy, dodgy? Dodgy. But what makes it dodgy?
One of the main points of that is they invite Zionist organizations, and then they said they also do events about Palestine. And that just makes it extremely contradictory, and that doesn't make sense. Also, the cost is extremely high, and it says excluding flights and accommodation, and it says on invitation only. So it's not something you can just sign up for if you want to go. So they choose specifically. So it seems quite dodgy.
Okay, very, very good points. Did someone wanted to say something? I saw a hand raising. No, it was just adjusting hijab. Okay. Yeah, indeed. But then, I would argue if we were to put a dodginess meter, this is something, some people would argue that they're just going there for networking. They just want to meet the people. They don't care if you have Zionist organizations because it's about your personal intentions. And even if the organizers, they collaborate with these guys, you're just here to meet the people you always wanted to meet, or maybe you're going to find your marriage partner, maybe you're going to find a business partner, and it's all about your personal intentions. So what would you say? Is it a valid argument, or you think, no, it's a bit shaky? Is it worth going if it's just for you and you don't care about the organizers and what they're doing? Tricky, huh? Anyone has an idea? What do they think? Would you go? Yeah?
I mean, if you don't know about the true intentions of the organizers, you don't want to be supporting them if they're doing something bad as well. Especially if they're working with Zionist organizations, you can't be enabling that.
Excellent point. Yeah, I completely agree. Because every single person that goes on these retreats, it gives them a bit of validation. So if we are rigorous about not empowering certain organizations and certain powers, we don't want to feed these people, because every single person who attends, they can take pictures of them, put them on social media, and look, we had so many people coming, so many people supporting us. And even if it's just one person, if it's just yourself, that's giving them a little bit of power, a little bit more of visibility and legitimacy, while, depending on your moral compass, if you don't want to, if you are stand against oppression, this is not something we want to see. So, case number 4, a halal organic farm. What do they offer? Organic halal meat, surprise, surprise. Cost, it's maybe twice as expensive as your local butcher. Credentials, founded in 2002, it's family owned. Even Cambridge Muslim College organizes events with them. Interviews, what they're saying on their website, they say it's the UK's first halal and Taib farm. Taib meaning, probably know it's mean excellent, which means animals are well treated, but this is what they claim. Reviews, very, very good reviews, and they offer, it's open to the public. So, dodgy or not dodgy?
No.
Okay, why?
Because you can go visit.
Okay, yeah, you can. Anything you would like to investigate?
The farm in 2002, and so that means it's been there for a long time. So obviously there was problems, so we picked it up.
Yeah, that's a valid point. That's a good argument in their favor, yeah?
You haven't mentioned the HMC or HFA, what do you call it, organization, saying that they're halal. It is in the credentials. I'm not saying that.
Interesting point. But what if they're actually rigorously halal? They just can't afford the HMC stamp on their meat. Yep. Yeah, indeed. If you apply rigorously the definition of halal, it means that the animals have to be well treated, well fed, and things that they don't have to be slaughtered in front of others so the other animals don't see. But one would argue that not everyone understands halal this way. This is why they have to put the emphasis on it. But it's a very good point. So I would say, if you have any doubts, well, you can, as the brother said, you can just go by yourself and visit and see what's happening actually. And so I would say, requires further investigations. But, these cases are, let's say, imaginary or inspired from real case studies, but also, I don't give any names because I don't want to confuse anyone, because there are very, very good halal organic farms in the UK, not only one. You probably have heard of Willowbrook Farm, but there's others as well. It's popping up. And, if you want to have a look, then go by yourself. So I'm not going to recommend any in particular because, It's for you. It's for you the decision to make. Case number 5, which is our final case, Dawah influencer. So we have a Dawah influencer. What he's offering religious advice and reaction videos as well. What does it cost you? It doesn't cost you a penny. It costs your time. Credentials. He has been making videos since 2012. He's got 1.2 million followers and collaborations with big influencers. What does he say? So he says things like, if your imam doesn't have a six-pack, fire him. He says, men age like wine, women age like milk. He says, I have built a copy-paste system for you to find the ideal wife, not husband, wife. And he says, women have an obsessive-compulsive disorder. Reviews, what do people say in the comments? Classic internet. Some people hate him, some people love him. Dodgy or not dodgy? Dodgy. Okay, of course, the sisters are going to say it's dodgy. What do the boys are saying? Dodgy. Okay, why? I want arguments, solid arguments.
Six-pack argument.
Yeah? Why?
I mean, your body's a manner, but a six-pack is on the extreme end. So.
Yeah, you have to cut a lot. It's a bit, the bar is really high.
It's like 15% body. Like.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other arguments?
He doesn't seem to be like a scholar or like have any like Islamic education. So he's just like saying random stupid stuff. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's just a guy with the internet connection. But if you have 1.2 million people following him, maybe he's saying the truth. No? Do followers translate to legitimacy? Of course not. And according to your moral compass, it's if you understand the tradition, how the Prophet treated women, how we would speak about women, you can also figure out, that's an easy one. So to end up in this presentation, the game is rigged. Because at some point, me included, there are points in life where I want to make my work a bit more visible, or I want to earn money in social media. Seems to offer a very easy way to do it, but we need to remember that on social media, every single thing can be faked. Whether we're talking about engagement rates, we're talking about your number of followers, custom comments, likes, subscribe, everything can be bought. Now I think it costs something like £120 to buy 10,000 followers. So if you have the money, you can pretend that you're someone already very famous. And you probably know that lots of people, when they want to showcase a certain lifestyle, and with supercars, holidays, it's never their own. It's credit card, bank loans, Airbnb, rental cars. Nothing belongs to them. It either belongs to the bank or to a rental company. But because our brain is super visual, 80% of the information we ingest is through our eyes. So by definition, our brain is wired to ingest visual information, and we have this bias where when we see big numbers, we see these wall of images, or this like doom scrolling videos, our brain subconsciously thinks that this is something legit. But this is why we have the prefrontal cortex in our brains that tells us, hang on a second, yes, your eyes are seeing all these things, but it could be completely fake. And this is something I think we need to remember. Because if you want to actually venture into that space, and maybe, I don't know, you're going to set up a business later down the line in life, or you want to set a platform on social media, people who are actually really, really successful and who actually benefit the society usually takes a very long time. Because you probably heard the sentence, good products don't need marketing. And whatever we think of Tesla right now and Elon Musk, the thing is back in the days, at the very, very early days, that Tesla didn't spend a penny on marketing because they were the first one offering a relatively decent electric car. So now obviously we know about the politics of Elon Musk and how he treats his employees and lots of stuff, but back in the days that was the thing. They were able to save a lot of money because the product was speaking by itself, let's to say. And in my research, a lot of the best initiatives I've encountered in the UK, because we may be wondering, what can we do against these people, this culture of fakeness. Whenever people set up an initiative, and always, it starts with family members, close friends, then friends of friends. It starts very, very small. It takes some time. One of my favorite examples I wanted to share with you today is the example of the Green Deen tribe. Has anyone heard of the Green Deen tribe? Rabia Malin Sakina, Pillars of Islam. So Rabia is a trained herbalist in Islamic herbalism and Western herbalism, and her big thing is the protection of the environment. So her idea was to bring sisters on retreats in the English countryside and talk about how it is our duty as Muslims, as Khilafah, as stewards, to take care of the plants, take care of the animals, and of course take care of each other. And I remember back in the days when I was attending their workshops, they would gather maybe 5, 6, 7 people. And they did this for 7 and 8 years. And you imagine, you invest all of your time in everything you believe in, and you just only get 5, 6, 7 people attending your events. But what happened, fast forward 2019, they organized this Green Deen Iftar, which was an iftar without meat, without plastic, and without food waste. 300 people came. And at the same time, Rabia and her sister did this initiative, started in 2010. You had another charity in London which was funded with lots of donations. They had big names in the community supporting them. They had paid employees. But in 2020, the charity shut down. Why? We need to look at what was the cause, what was the intentions. This charity, their aim was very simple, very noble, but it's very simple. They wanted all the mosques in the UK to have eco-friendly measures, set up solar panels, tap water-saving things in the taps. But the thing is, what happens if you send a 20-year-old volunteer talking to a mosque committee where you have uncles, and you have someone who is 20 years old and tell them, hey, uncles, hey, you need to put some solar panels on your mosque. How do you think it's going to be received? But Rabia, her approach, it was very organic. She starts with family, friends, and she says that, for example, instead of using disposable tissues, you can use cotton handkerchief. And actually, it's thanks to Rabia. Do I have my handkerchief with me? It's, you can get them on the internet. It's super cheap, it's reusable, and instead of, littering some plastic and some cotton, and she convinced me because, it's just a very simple action. But this is to say that even with very, very small actions, at some point it's going to build a critical mass, and this is how things are going to change. You don't need a lot of money and a lot of big names or big resources to make change happen. Because my philosophy, what I believe, after everything I've seen is, it starts here. If you can't change from the top, it's going to be very difficult. And we've seen, like, for example, how you had Barack Obama in the US, the first black president. Did he stop the killing of black teenagers in the US? Of course not. Did Sadiq Khan, mayor of London, did anything for Muslims to improve their economic situation? Of course not. The change is going to happen with us right now, with our closest one, family, friends, by very small action. Just, like BDS works. If we disinvest from that brand, that influencer that promotes harmful things, little by little, they lose 1 follower, 2 followers, 10 followers, 100, 1,000, and then they take notice, and the things start to change. So yeah, thank you so much for your attention and your participation. This is what I had to say, and assalamu alaikum.